Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, a man recounts his marital turmoil after discovering his wife had an affair with her boss for a promotion. He confronts her, files for divorce, and insists on her boss's dismissal. Despite her pleas, he remains unforgiving, revealing the truth to her father. Both the wife and her affair partner lose their jobs and marriages. Now let's get into the story. My wife, 29, and I, 34, were married for 5 years. We met at a New Year's Eve party hosted by her father. She had one sister who used to be friends with me. After I started dating her sister, our relationship diminished. I don't think it was because she was upset. I knew she was glad her sister married me. She knew I was a good man, but there just wasn't as much motivation for us to continue a close relationship like that. During the time we were married, my wife was working at the same place and did great work. She was anxiously awaiting a promotion and big raise. That day finally came, and she was ecstatic when she got home that night after work. She was super pleased with herself. We went on a road trip as soon as the money started to come in, and that was the best memory I have of her. When we got back, things started to change, and I didn't know it at the time, but something had already changed before we went on our road trip. She continued working, but she started coming home and acting strange. She avoided eye contact, especially when I asked her how work went. And even though we used to cook dinner together every night, she started to insist that I work on my project or do something else while she cooked. This went on for a week, and then one night we were in bed and I started taking off her panties. She immediately started crying. It was obviously a red flag. When I asked what was going on, she didn't even try to lie. It's like the sentence of truth was already formed in her mind, like a cat in a bag instead of words in her head. She said her boss finally offered her the raise and promotion on one condition. I held my breath as she told me she had intimate with him. I just started crying. I was surprised because I never cried. I think I was really shocked because I didn't see this coming and we just got back from our road trip. She cried too and told me she did this because she thought it would better our lives and bring us closer together. As long as I never found out and it was just once. I told her I would have given all the money in the world for her not to do this. She started crying harder and whined that she knew that and she made a huge mistake. I asked her if this was just a one-time event and she hesitated before saying yes. I let that go in the moment because I knew it didn't even matter if she slept with him more than once. Once was enough. I said if she wanted to make it up to me, she had to help me get her boss fired. The color left her face and she said she didn't want to. I told her it's the only way she can make this right. She asked how we could get him fired. I told her to get proof that there was infidelity by exposing his text messages. She told me that she did what she had to for my proof, but she still expected forgiveness in the hopes it would help me forgive her. Then she asked me to type out the email to her boss so we could get him fired and I could start forgiving her. Told her I never planned to forgive her for this. I already filed for divorce around the same time she was getting her proof of infidelity for me. I told her I wouldn't trust her with a pet goldfish anymore, let alone my heart. She never should have accepted any amount of money for cheating on me. I told her she actually deserved that promotion without sleeping with him because she worked hard. She started crying again as I told her that she could have gone to headquarters about his unlawful and degrading request. But instead, she gave him what he wanted, and perhaps because she wanted it too, she could have been honorable and behaved like the lady her father raised her to be. Taking a sleazy offer like this and believing I'd never found out told me she didn't deserve me or know what it means to be a respectable person. She was shocked that I didn't plan on forgiving her, which is why she got me proof to fire her boss. She didn't know I was also going to mention her name and request she be fired too because she spoke to co-workers about it and made them uncomfortable. I told her to get out, but she begged me to at least let her sleep on the couch. I told her I couldn't afford the temptation of having her near me. She betrayed me, so I couldn't allow her near me. She needed to suffer the consequences. It was difficult. I wasn't sure if I'd need to call the police to get her out. but I didn't think they'd get involved like that. Since she was on the deed too, she had the option to tell her father. I was leaving her and he'd give her a place to stay. That's exactly what she did. But she really didn't want to tell him why I left her. He called me, so I told him. He was extremely embarrassed and ashamed. Her mother cheated on him years ago, so he raised her as best he could to understand how terrible it is to do that to someone. He was so embarrassed that he didn't tell any of their family members or friends that his daughter had moved in with him again. Both my ex-wife and AP were fired from their jobs and divorced. AP didn't even trust her enough to continue seeing her because she filmed him without his knowledge and made him lose his job. I'd say everything turned out as it should have in my situation. I started dating again, but I'm not going to quickly attach to anyone, and maybe that's for the better. Today's second story. In this story, childhood sweethearts, 40-year-old male and 37-year-old Angela, married young and built a life together. Despite initial happiness, suspicions arose when Angela's behavior changed during Christmas. Tracking her, he found her with another man. Devastated, he divorced her, gaining custody of their children. Angela's attempts at reconciliation failed, leaving him determined to move forward with their children. Now let's get into the story. I, 40 male, and my ex-wife Angela, 37 female, were childhood sweethearts. When we were younger, our parents were very good friends, and they jokingly used to call us husband and wife. I guess it's because I was very fond of Angela back then, and she used to be my goat playmate, especially because I didn't have any siblings growing up. We continued to be friends, and then we dated each other and ended up getting married at a very young age. I'll have to admit, Angela was my world. And we did almost everything together. We went to the same high school, college, and in the end, we ended up as husband and wife. Our families were very happy when we told them we were getting married to each other. And despite being very young, they allowed us to get married. After our marriage, Angela and I moved to a new town, and we started a new life. There, I was out of college first, and luckily for me, I got a job. And since the economy was much better than it is now, surviving and growing with Angela was not difficult, aside from not getting a job. Easily. I came from a partially wealthy family, and almost all my needs were taken care of, especially as I was the only child of my parents. After she completed college, Angela got a job as a marketer, but she didn't have to go around like the rest of her colleagues. She was more the staff we called clients and convinced them to buy their properties and products. Her pay was good too. So when it came to finances, we were doing quite okay. We agreed not to have children in the early years of our marriage because we wanted to be settled first and enjoy our company as a couple. And after 7 years of marriage, we started having kids. We were lucky to be blessed with a son and a daughter named Matthew and Sophie. And we lived like a big, happy family as a couple. Even before we had children, we had the culture of returning to our hometown for the Christmas celebration, and we did it every year. Because we came from the same hometown, so it was easy to visit both our families. But on a particular Christmas, Angela suggested that we spend Christmas in the city with the kids for a change. I didn't even know that she had spoken to the children about it. So when she brought it up one evening, we voted, and I was outnumbered. I saw how much the kids wanted to spend Christmas in the city, and I was forced to agree. That same Christmas, miss, I noticed there was something shady about Angela, and I began to notice some changes in her. For example, she never locked her phone, but I noticed she put a password in it. And one of our rules was never locking our phones. Or if at all she locked her phone, I would have to know her password. So when I asked her about her new development, she said she locked her phone because of our son, and I let it slide. I also noticed that she was always on her phone, even during the Christmas holiday. And when I asked her about it, she'd just casually say work and continue to chat and smile. I know it's normal for our spouses to chat and smile, but I had been married to Angela for 17 years, and I spent my entire childhood with her. So if there was anyone who knew when she was lying or hiding something, it would be me. It got so bad that she barely spent time with the children and me, and I even regretted why I didn't insist for us to go to our hometown and spend Christmas with our parents as usual. Initially, when she suggested that we all spend Christmas in the city, I anticipated something more fun, like hanging out together and doing fun things with the kids. But in the end, it was obvious that she did everything she did for herself. My suspicions got heightened on Christmas Day when she woke up that morning and told me something came up at work and her attention was needed. To be honest, it was weird because everyone was on a Christmas break, so I didn't understand why she needed to go to work on Christmas Day. As if that wasn't enough, I watched as she wore a beautiful blue dress, applied makeup and cologne, then released her blonde hair and took her new winter coat with her. My guts told me she wasn't going to work. She barely applied makeup to work, and her unusual excitement gave her out. She told me and the kids that she'd only be gone for an hour or two, and she'd be back to cook. But I knew my ex-wife was up to something. I had a very strong feeling about it, and I was very confident she wasn't going to work like she claimed. When she drove out, I told our kids to go over to our neighbor's house and spend some time there, so I could go grab something at the mall. And then I followed Angela. I tracked her phone, and it led me right to where she was. Just as I expected, she didn't go to work, as she told me, and after about 30 minutes of following her, she pulled over and entered the back of a house, which looked like an old garage converted to a studio. At that moment, I didn't know if it was right to follow her or wait in the car. I didn't want to be the husband that doesn't trust his wife, so I gave her the benefit of doubt and waited for her to come out, hoping that she would. But after about 1 hour of waiting and there was no sign of Angela, I knew I had to go in and check what was going on. I did, and why saw weaken my bones. After I stepped out of my car, I knocked on the door and a beardy tall man in his early 30s opened the door, but that wasn't it. I saw Angela standing behind him in a bathrobe. She froze the minute she saw me, and she tried to walk towards me. I was devastated, and I could not believe what I had just seen. She called my name and went on her knees to beg, but I told her to not bother coming back home, and I left. I returned home to the kids, and the moment I got home, I changed the locks on the doors. Knowing that Angela lied to me to go and have an affair with another man drove me crazy. We had been through so much together since we were children, and I could not believe she threw all of that away for just an hour of pleasure. As I expected, she tried to come home and beg me, but when she realized that I changed the locks, she asked me to not let one mistake ruin everything we shared. And that, to me, was very funny because I was done with her. I could tolerate my spouse lying to me, but not cheating on me. We divorced shortly after, and I made sure that throughout our 3 months of struggling for child custody in court, she didn't see the kids or speak with them. When everything was finalized, I got custody over the children, and I told our parents and friends how she cheated on me without thinking of what we shared. I even shared pictures from that day with everyone who cared to ask. I had taken pictures of her in the bathrobe at the man's house, just for evidence. Her parents were really disappointed in her when they knew what she had done. It got so bad that they even stopped speaking to her after the divorce. She kept blowing my phone, begging me for a second chance, but I wanted nothing to do with her ever again. I am currently happy with my children, and though they miss having both parents around, they'll learn to adjust to the changes, and hopefully one day they'll have a trustworthy and loyal stepmother.